Are you a woman who needs a better desk, but the choices are terrible? My wife's desk was functional, but ugly. We looked for a new one, but they all had problems. They were too antique, too brown, too difficult to move, too strange. The solution is that I will build a new desktop that matches her personality. She's at a desk one-third of her waking hours. It ought to be something she loves. First, the size. This desktop will be about 2 by 4 feet, nearly the exact size of the top that it will replace. That might sound small to you, but you might be stuck in the past. It used to be that a desk was this giant brown monolith and it had a big, hulking computer monitor and a keyboard and some file folders and an old trophy with a horse on top and one of those manual calculators with like 1,000 buttons on it. But that was your grandfather's desk, and only if he was very lucky and worked hard. And my wife is not your grandfather. You know, probably. Just trust me. Her laptop and her mug of tea is going to fit just fine, or very nicely, on a desk that is 8 square feet. And one day, when inevitably I have to pick this desk up and move it to another room or another house, I'll actually be able to. While this plywood base is strong, it is 4 feet long and needs to be stiffer, so I'll create a simple torsion box by adding some plywood rails underneath. A torsion box is a fancy term for adding a grid of stiffeners beneath the surface to keep it flat and resist twisting. Airplane wings and bridge decks are large-scale torsion boxes. The inside of your tennis racket and quality shoes are also built to resist twisting. For maximum rigidity, I both glue and nail the pieces together. Here is the stiffened top. I doubt my wife will sit on the desk, but now she could. Next, the decorative sides. I'm using hickory for this. It is attractive, has some character, and is exceedingly durable. It is also a local wood. I endeavor to use local wood whenever possible, usually trees that came down in storms or died of natural causes. Creating thin strips from a rough plank like this takes some work, but it's worth it. In addition to gluing these sides on, I will also be able to nail through the back of the torsion box for extra strength, and all the fasteners will be hidden. So, this is what we've currently got. Notice that my edge here sits about a ½ inch proud of my plywood, so not only have I made a really attractive decorative edge out of a really hard wood that's going to polish up beautifully and be extremely durable, but also I've created a little perfect moat for all of my resin, which I don't want to leak out because it is about $1 an ounce, at least for quality resin. So my last step before I start building and filling this with my decorative elements is to put a little line of glue in here, or maybe do it twice, to make sure that I have a perfect seal so nothing can leak through. I'm starting with dry, but otherwise raw, hickory and hard maple slabs. Since the resin moat I created is a ½ inch deep, that's how thick the wood tiles I'm making for the top also need to be. I cut manageable sized pieces with a circular or miter saw, trim the edges with a table saw and sled, resaw them thinner on a bandsaw, then plane them to a ½ inch thick. This is a time and equipment-intensive process, but it's worth it to have access to local wood, not just what the big box store sells. Now that the extensive process of milling rough wood into ½ inch thick lumber is complete, I can begin work on the exciting part for both of us. I enjoy color and pattern immensely, and recognize that you likely have little interest in watching a man play with his tools. So, I've roughly drawn out the pattern for the top. It's a mixture of rhombi, plural for rhombus, and triangles. It was a bit fussy getting the angles and the sizes correct. An error of only 1 degree will compound and ruin something like this. I will be using both maple and hickory to make my polygons. Each of the larger rhombuses, or rhombi, will have a botanical carving in it. That's these here. I was a math teacher long enough to know that most people don't find a complex math explanation to be entertaining. So I will summarize the cutting of the triangle and the rhombi and their assorted angles by saying that there was ample applied geometry and measurement to get it to fit together this well. Shown here is my arrangement of polygons with 1/4 inch gaps between them. I used orange tile spacers to ensure this is as consistent as possible. Now, I'm going to remove the 8 rhombi and CNC carve a different botanical in each. Then, pour resin in the carved design and put it back. I'm also going to start gluing down all the triangular elements by adding a dab of glue in the gaps. This way, I can solidify the arrangement without having to pull all of it up and then glue each triangle down individually. These woods, hickory and hard maple, are both heavy and dense, so they shouldn't float when pouring resin in, but I don't want to find out the hard way that I'm wrong. So I finished the CNC carving of the 8 botanical themes my wife wanted. I chose not to show that to you because I don't think that multiple hours of terrible machine sounds is terribly entertaining. But here is a summary of what I did. We have, in order of appearance, hollyberry, jasmine buds, an olive branch, wild rose, magnolia, buttercup, a leaf bouquet, and poppy. I think it looks good. So I did some color tests, and this color on top, sort of an emerald green, is what my wife liked best. So that's what I'm going to custom mix up and pour in all 8 botanicals. Because the lines for the botanicals were carved so thin, the resin doesn't necessarily seep into the gaps, so I help it along with my finger, ensuring every line is filled. Here's what a couple of the poured botanicals looks like. My next step is to tack glue all 8 tiles back in their spots, let that dry, and then I can go ahead and pour resin in the gaps. If you like that carving of a poppy, please take a moment to like and subscribe for more content like this that skews to the creative and colorful side of woodworking. After getting wife approval for the version of gold I would use, I was ready to begin pouring. Though less efficient, I opted to pour in shallow layers for several reasons. First, pouring resin into a 1/4-inch gap is hard enough. If the container is 2 quarts, it's much harder. Next, pouring 2 cups at a time gave me a chance to ensure I didn't have any leaks. Finally, there is some CYA involved. My wife wanted gold fill between the tiles, and ultimately it looked great. But we have all had the experience of making a poor design decision, then undoing it at great expense. By pouring the gold in several shallow layers, if it didn't look good or anyone changed their mind, it's easy to make the next layer a new color and nothing is ruined. My resin has had the full cure time at this point, and I'm ready to start sanding off the overpour. You can see there's quite a bit of it, as I knew there would be, but I have complete faith that this is going to clean up very nicely and be absolutely stunning when it's done. It took about 4 hours to completely sand and flatten this top. Many woodworkers complain about sanding. I don't mind it. It is often the step where the quality of your work is revealed. I have to use the floor to apply finish as another project is occupying the freshly defunct table saw I use as a work table. This is a modern coffee table I'm building from scraps, and it also features some pops of color using green resin. Look for Modern Coffee Table from Scraps if you'd like to see more of that build. I'm finishing this in 2 coats of Rubio, an oil-wax hybrid finish that is rubbed in, then thoroughly buffed off. It will provide a good balance of beauty and protection for a desk used by an adult. Before the big reveal, I'm reminding you that while I do make a variety of colorful wood projects, most of my time is spent making memorials, usually for pets, but sometimes people too. They are customized to your wood, color, text, and image preferences. Some people choose to have cremains infused as well. If you are looking for a quality custom product made in America, I am a great choice whether you lost your 4-legged family last week or years ago. Here it is, a custom and unique desktop that is modern, movable, suits her personality, and brings some joy to the many hours she spends at it. And did this cost less than buying a new one? Several colors of mica powder, 3 CNC bits, as I figured out how to best carve the botanical designs, sandpaper, and a quality 2-quart resin kit add up to $150 in individual product costs. But I also used $7,000 in workshop tools. Also, time and skill were needed. In the comments, let me know what you think it's worth. Not just because I need an excuse to ask you for a comment, but because I genuinely don't know how to price work like this. Thanks for watching.